All right, joining me on the show today is Nashville sports talk legend George Plaster. George, how you doing?
Good. Boy, I'll tell you what, there's not a lot of standards to legend, is
No,
there?
I've been listening to you for several years, and I thought I'd like to have you on the show to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
Uh, how did you get into sports talk radio?
You know, I knew as a little kid that I wanted to get into sports broadcasting. There wasn't really any secret about it. And so, I was fortunate when I was in college. I got a job at a very small AM station in Nashville, WKDA, which was affiliated with KDF, which was a powerful FM signal. And by the time I got out of college, I was probably considerably ahead of most kids my age. I'd done 2 years of minor league baseball. I had done high school football in the area. I'd done a lot of sportscast kind of stuff. I was really given a lot of hands-on experience, and that was very helpful to me.
Well, what's your favorite sports memory that you've been a part of or remember?
My favorite sports memory, gosh, there are probably a bunch of them. I would say the Predator run a couple of years ago was one of those. Being the big Braves fan that I am, when they won it all in '95. The Titans run, the 4 weeks of following the team to the Super Bowl and doing shows in Indy and down in Jacksonville, and then at the Super Bowl. I'd say those are three that are right there near the top. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff, but those are three that sort of stand out.
And me being a Braves fan too, what do you think about the Braves this year?
It's a little bit of a roller coaster ride because there's no doubt that the pieces are there down the road for them to win a world title. And I've been saying this a lot, that in the next 2 to 4 years, they're going to win a world title. But what is happening right now, and it happens with a lot of teams, with a young roster, is that it's not all established yet. We don't really know who the keepers are going to be and who they aren't, in particular in their pitching staff. They've had, two of the young guys, Mike Soroka and Max Fried, who have sort of risen above the rest. But I think there's more coming. I still have a lot of faith that a Tukey Toussaint down the road, a Kyle Wright, an Ian Anderson, some of those guys are going to be big contributors. But there are too many questions right now, pitching-wise, to just go out and say, well, if they get in a short series with, let's say, the Dodgers, that they can win. I just think that that's asking a lot. It's probably still a year or two away, and it'll require, some of the younger pieces to become more established than they are today.
Now, my good friend Roy Morgan of Roy's Barbecue brought up this question. What's your memories of C.M. Newton?
Well, they're unbelievable memories. I mean, he was like a second dad to me. I don't know how I ever got lucky enough to have a friendship with him. And it started out when I first met him when I was in my 20s. I needed his help when it came to going after, Division I play-by-play jobs. He was an unbelievable name to be able to put on a resume and get a reference from. In the later years, it was more a lot of messing with each other and, kidding each other about our golf games. And there was a fun side to Coach Newton that liked to screw with people like me. And when I figured out it was okay to kind of fire back, we just had a lot of fun. I miss him a lot. In later years, I would get a lot of funny phone calls from him, or he'd get one from me. when he was in his 80s one day, I picked up the phone and just told him, I said, I can kick your butt in golf. And that spawned kind of a 4-year deal where me and a buddy, a mutual friend of ours, Mike Petroni, we'd go down to Tuscaloosa and play golf with him. He was the best, period.
Now, what's your thoughts on the Antonio Brown saga that's been going on?
I can't figure out, I guess having never played football at that level, I'm just hard-pressed to believe that this helmet thing is that big a deal. That surely of all the helmets that have been approved, that he can find one, and ultimately he's going to find one because there's too much money at stake for him to just, totally, bag it and retire. Boy, he's shown a prima donna side to him in the last 18 months that makes you wonder what you're getting. And I'm sure right now the Raiders are sitting there going, what in the world have we gotten into?
I bet the Steelers are glad to have him gone. What do you say about the Titans this year? What do you think about them this year?
It's hard to tell. And I don't mean to be dodging this. But obviously all of it right now kind of falls on Marcus Mariota. He's in his 5th year. We've still got a lot of the same questions that we've always had. Thursday night certainly didn't help him at all. His lack of accuracy is a real problem. That's one of the things that really hasn't gotten talked about a lot is, by the time you get to your 5th year in the NFL, you better be pinpoint accurate as a quarterback. You look at a guy like Drew Brees, and that's what's made him such a success is he can put the ball exactly where he needs to put it. And right now, I'm not convinced Marcus Mariota can. And I think the Titans' worst nightmare may well be that we may be about to enter into a quarterback controversy because it's very possible that Ryan Tannehill is just as good, if not better. And, they've got a really good running back in Derrick Henry, but if I'm playing against them, I'm basically stacking the free world in the box and basically saying, we're not going to let you run. You're going to have to beat us throwing the ball. And I don't know if they're good enough to do that.
Last question, George, and I'll let you go with this. What advice do you have for people that are getting into sports talk radio or radio in general?
Well, let's maybe take it one step farther and go to the sports world. And it's been an incredible ride for me to be able to say that over this length of time, most of my life has been spent in sports, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. I believe that I probably had more fun than 95% of people that enter the workforce. There's certain days where, it doesn't feel like work at all. And so one thing I would tell people is, if this is really what you want to do, don't let anybody stop you from your dream. The second part of it is understand that early, you're probably going to struggle monetarily. Just like in any profession, you're not going to come out of school and make $500,000 a year. You're going to struggle, and you're going to have to be able to handle the struggle. And, I think if you were to talk to any number of people who've had long careers in sports reporting or sports talk or whatever it may be in sports, they'll probably tell you a lot of the same things that I've just kind of thrown out there, that, you've got to be ready for it, to be a rocky road early and set some parameters as to how long you're willing for it to be a rocky road and kind of go from there.
Thank you for joining me on the show, George. I really appreciate it.
Happy to do it. Good luck to you on this.
I'm glad to have you back on the radio. I missed you on the radio.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, George.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. This is Kai Ramsey for YouTube Sports signing off. Thanks for George Plaster for joining me.